Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. It's that time of year again, week one. I am your host, Chris Raybon, and I am joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the biz, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, happy week one.
What's up? Happy week one. It's finally here.
Oh, yeah. And this is got a little new format for you guys for this episode, for all you listeners out there. So this is going to be our waivers pod. And what we'll do is we'll highlight players available in at least 50% of leagues at each position. And because I know y'all just want to hear us talk defense and kicker, we'll also close it out with our top defense and our top kicker streamers of the week. So should be a very actionable fantasy podcast. We'll still have our player projections podcast, and we'll have a DFS podcast where we go through game by game and break down our top cheap value plays. So switch it up the format, but we're giving you 3 Fantasy Flex episodes per week. Kerner and I, you got 2 top 5 most accurate rankers at Fantasy Pros over the last 3 years. So should be a lot of goodness. I'm excited, and we're going to get right into it with quarterback. Before we do, just want to quickly remind everyone, all of our 2024 fantasy football content available right now over at fantasylabs.com. You can find all our rankings, projections, and more at fantasylabs.com. So be sure to go to fantasylabs.com if you want to follow along with Sean and I and get all of our content all season long. And be sure to subscribe to the pod. Fantasy Flex, again, 3 episodes coming at you every week. This is waivers. Let's jump right into it, Sean. Week one, who do you like for a quarterback that should be available in the majority of listeners' leagues right now?
Yeah, so when it comes to like streaming options for week one, it's always one of the trickiest and roughest weeks to stream, I think, because most of the top quarterbacks have been taken, and we just don't have enough data to go off of. So right now, the best available streamer is Deshaun Watson for me. He opens the week as my QB 15, which is the highest rank of anybody that's available in at least 40% of leagues. And, you know, he's not the sexiest streaming option. I'll give you that, but he does have some long-term potential, at least. You know, there's still a shot, albeit a low chance, that he regains his form we saw with the Texans. So he makes sense as an open up the year flyer if you're in a spot to stream quarterback. But he also, you know, he has, a tougher matchup here against the Cowboys. But, you know, Deron Bland's going to be out, so they're going to be having to start Kalen Carson, their 5th-round rookie. So he's a player that they might be able to pick on. But, you know, Watson has 3 very high-quality weapons in, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, but they also brought in Jerry Jeudy. Watson has rushing upside. So he has a good mix of things going for him. That's why he's opening up the season as my QB 15. However, this is a range with about 12 quarterbacks, all within a point of each other. So by the end of the week, he could end up being like my quarterback 22, and I might have someone like Sam Darnold creeping up to like QB 15. Who the hell knows? But as of right now, Deshaun Watson is my highest ranked quarterback that's available in at least 40% of leagues.
I'm gonna be real with you. You just emboldened me. So I have Watson right with you, QB 15. 2 guys I have higher than him. I wrote up Baker Mayfield. He's my QB 14. Sam Darnold, my QB 13. So I wasn't even going to talk about him because, you know, it's Tuesday, right? And Darnold popped up against the Giants at QB 13. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But, you know, you kind of mentioned it. It's a good matchup. The Giants secondary, you're talking about Deonte Banks, who was one of the worst corners in the league last year. Will he take that year 2 jump? Well, it's going to have to start against Justin Jefferson. Looks like Jordan Addison is back at practice, so crisis averted there. now we only need to get my guy Jalen Naylor healthy because it looks like he's missing some practice. But this is still a formidable Vikings passing game, even without TJ Hawkinson. And Darnold has been decent when he's had weapons. He's been essentially like a league average quarterback. And against a bad defense, he's going to be above average. So I do think he's in the top 15, 16 quarterback options here against the New York Giants. Just not a good secondary. I mean, if you watch Hard Knocks, you saw they were like, oh yeah, if we get Brian Burns, like I'm gonna have to go play corner. I think that's what Joe Shane said. So like, that's the state of the Giants secondary. Newbin, maybe he's a good player, but rookie starting on the back end in week 1, recipe for miscommunication. So this could be a big Justin Jefferson day, and that's all you really need if you're Sam Darnold. So I think Darnold is a nice option against the Giants. And then Mayfield going against this Washington defense. You didn't mention even that the Dallas matchup, it's kind of tough for Watson, but remember, Dan Quinn is gone. So that's actually a positive for Watson, but also Quinn is in Washington with a terrible defense. So maybe he turns it around, but remember Quinn in Atlanta, he was supposed to be a defensive guy there, and his defenses weren't very good. So this Washington team, another team, questions in the secondary. So even though I'm kind of down on Baker Mayfield this year because I think the loss of Dave Canales, it's going to hurt. Canales, really, really great work with Geno and then Mayfield in back-to-back years. But you still got Godwin. You still got Evans. Everyone's still healthy. And you added a weapon in McMillan, to platoon with Palmer. And you added Bucky Irving, who, is another guy along with Rachaad White who can take some passes out of the backfield and perhaps make some things happen, for Mayfield after the catch. So I like Mayfield. He's my QB 14, and Darnold right now is my QB 13. Don't hold me to that, but he's gonna be in that mix. He's gonna be in that mix.
Yeah.
So Darnold and Mayfield for me.
Well, that's good. I felt like I was on Darnold Island all off season, so it's good that you're joining me on that. I would say the tiebreaker for him would be if Addison is active. I think if Addison's out, I would certainly downgrade Darnold. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Darnold is definitely in the mix this week. Just right now, I wasn't sure if Addison was going to play, but it does sound like he's going to suit up, right?
Yeah, Addison seems fine. It's Naylor's the one now we're a little more concerned about. It seems like. So Addison returned to practice, I believe it was a couple of days ago. So he should be good to go.
Yeah.
I think more concerning with him is I guess there's still a potential suspension that could come later in the year, I think, for him, but it doesn't look like he's going to miss any games at the onset as of right now. All right, let's jump to running back. Who are you targeting at the running back position on waivers ahead of week 1?
Well, these are more like long-term stashes. If you're adding somebody to start week 1, man, that is a disaster of a draft. You should probably already have 2 to 3 running backs you're starting. So this guy's a stash. He's been one of my favorite stashes all offseason, and that's Jalen Wright of the Dolphins. They're facing the Jaguars this week, although that shouldn't matter because you're not playing him anyway. But, he's a really good rookie running back out of Tennessee. They took him in the 4th round. Fast, fits the scheme perfectly. He's a bit bigger than both Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, so he's probably going to be more durable if and when he does get his chance. So even though he's opening up the season as the number 3 back, I think he's one of the top handcuffs because, number one, this offense is, a fancy gold mine. Both Mostert and Achane were both top 5 backs when healthy last year. But if either one were to miss time, I think Wright could carve out a big enough role to offer RB3 flex value or more. So he's kind of in a unique spot where that kind of doubles his chances technically of being an injury upside back. So he's one of my favorite stashes, still available in 78% of leagues. Look, a lot of these home leagues, like I've had some buddies ask me if they should pick up Blake Corum. I'm like, what the hell? How is he even available? But a lot of these deeper leagues, Jalen Wright should absolutely be a bench stash. But if you have guys like Blake Corum available, I'd rather have him, obviously. But I think Jalen Wright's a guy that could pop in season a lot like Devon Achane did last year. Maybe not, top 5 running back, but certainly an RB3 flex option if either back goes down. And the other guy I'll just quickly mention, he's a guy I haven't mentioned at all offseason, and that's Samaje Perine, now of the Chiefs. I know he's like nemesis, the Gio Bernard.
Our nemesis.
He's the new Gio Bernard. We have to mention him.
Yeah.
Just because his stock went way up after getting cut by Denver. He signed by Kansas City. Could take over this Jerick McKinnon role. And now Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been ruled out, for at least the first 4 weeks. So P. Ryan, he could offer some RB3 flex value in PPR leagues. But I think more importantly, if, Pacheco ever misses time right now, P. Ryan could offer RB2 type value. So that does make him one of the top running back injury upside kind of guys right now. But wouldn't really start him unless you're in like a very deep PPR format. But he's still available in 96% of leagues. His stock's going up. Figured he was worth mentioning here.
Yeah, and he's one injury away. I mean, Pacheco runs extremely violently, so he hasn't really missed much time. But, with Edwards-Helaire on the NFI list, you got Carson Steele, who's looking really good, but he's kind of a tweener, more of a halfback, fullback hybrid. So Piron's one injury away from being the feature back on perhaps the league's best offense.
Yep.
So, yeah, I like it. For me, I got a couple of kind of similar, but one of these guys I was surprised to see who was still available in 63% of ESPN leagues, and that's Rico Dowdle for the Cowboys. Listen, I know they just signed Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook is washed. Like, Ezekiel Elliott might not be washed, but Dalvin Cook is absolutely washed. He's on the practice squad, so we don't even know, if he's going to get the call up or just kind of languish there, because that's what the Cowboys do. They sign these, guys with name value. But a lot of the beat writers have been kind of alluding to the fact that they think Dowdle has a good shot to lead the Cowboys in rushing, and that he could be even the, clock killing back, things like that. A lot of the roles you might think Ezekiel Elliott, would be, the number one candidate for. So it's still up in the air. Who knows? Maybe the Cowboys are crazy and they decide to, call up Dalvin Cook and give him like 15 carries, but highly doubtful. More likely is if Cook gets called up, he's a number 3 back. And then Elliott and Dowdle kind of go hot hand. Dowdle's the younger guy. So I think it's worth a stash at least just to see what's going on. And, it's check the underlying usage in the snap counts, because this is a tough matchup in week 1 against Cleveland. So probably shouldn't be starting him either way. But it might be a situation where, you could be kind of a week early to the party and don't just drop him again. Even if he has a bad game, like make sure you check the snap counts first and see how he was used, because he could be trending up after this week, after this tough matchup. And then the other guy is Bucky Irving. He's available in over 80% of ESPN leagues. And this is another speculative ad where we just don't know exactly what the new split is going to be between Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, similar to Blake Corum, and Kyron Williams in LA. We just don't know. It's a new coordinator for Tampa Bay. You had Canales, of course, go to Carolina. So this might not just be Rachaad White all day. It could be, but Irving is a talented guy, and he could, if he makes a big play or two in week 1, which is very possible against the Commanders defense that I don't expect to be very good, then he'll be a hot ad after week 1. So another guy to get ahead of before that happens.
Yep, love me some Bucky Irving.
Oh, yeah. All right, we'll get to wide receiver. But before we move on, just wanted to remind everyone once again, all of our fantasy football content this season located at fantasylabs.com. Our rankings, projections, Sean's tiers, if you're still drafting, and more, all available right now. Of course, our weekly rankings are going to be there every week. And you can get $20 off by using the promo code FLEX20 at fantasylabs.com/flex. That's FLEX20 at fantasylabs.com/flex. And remember, you're talking to 2 of the top 5 most accurate season-long rankers, as well as numerous top 5 wins for weekly. That's what the trophy's behind me for. Sean has like 6 of them. So be sure to head over to fantasylabs.com/flex and use promo code FLEX20 to get yourself some accurate, precise fantasy football rankings. That's fantasylabs.com/flex, code FLEX20. Take advantage now. $20 off. All right, wide receiver. Who do you like at wide receiver on the wire ahead of week 1?
Yeah, so this guy you could actually use week one if you are in a pinch, and that's Josh Palmer. He's still available in 42% of leagues, which seems like, way too many leagues to still be available. And for someone who's probably going to open the season, in the wide receiver 3 flex mix, I think he's going to be Justin Herbert's top target, at least to begin the season. And anytime in the past when he's had to fill in for Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, he's stepped up. So he's going to have to do that right away this year with, both receivers on new teams. And I think, eventually we could see rookie Ladd McConkey take over as the top target in this offense at some point in the season. But I think that would be, probably in the second half of the season. So either way, I think right out of the gate, I think Palmer's going to be the top target in what could be, run heavy offense, but still he's attached to Justin Herbert. There's some touchdown upside here. So Palmer's a guy that I think should not be available in 42% of leagues. So Adam, I would kind of consider him more of a high floor play. While you kind of wait for your high upside bench depth to maybe break out, he would be a nice, reliable weapon for you if you're needing help at wide receiver as soon as week one.
Yeah, people are kind of sleeping on Josh Palmer. I guess maybe not too many people familiar with his game since he was kind of behind. Really 3 guys when they were all healthy. But yeah, I think he's going to be the number 1 receiver. I think he's definitely going to play the most snaps at wide receiver to begin the season because McConkey likely comes out off the field for some certain personnel groupings because he's more of he's at least going to start the year as a slot. For me, the top guy is Khalil Shakir, available in just over half of ESPN leagues. He's a fringe top 50 guy, but Curtis Samuel has been banged up. So Shakir, I think he's still the best bet for volume early in the season amongst this Bills receiving core. Ultimately, I think Keon Coleman, the rookie, has the most upside when you consider, touchdowns. He's a bigger target, but Shakir is a guy who can play inside, outside. And I think, he, unlike Coleman and unlike Samuel, he already has that chemistry with Josh Allen. So really like Shakir as a speculative ad because we really don't know how this Bills receiving room is going to shake out. Coleman may need some time to kind of get going. Maybe he's a little better over the second half of the season. And then again, Samuel hasn't been practicing and he's new to the team. So it sets up for Dalton Kincaid and Shakir as the number 2 target in a pretty good matchup week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. So like him. And then Romeo Doubs is also available in just over half. He's another kind of fringe top 50 guy. Going to be tough because you're not going to always know when to start him, but he could be a guy that continues to break out, was very good in the red zone for the Packers. And I expect Jordan Love to take a step forward. So it's always possible a guy like Dobbs is a little bit more consistent. 8 touchdowns last season. And, I think that may continue because we saw him in the postseason. He had another big game, 234 yards on 10 catches over the 2 playoff games. So he was kind of trending up even when everyone was healthy. So if I have space, I'd hold him on my roster for at least week 1 and just see how the Green Bay wide receiver snap counts play out because Dontavian Wicks is also very, very good and he's going to eat into somebody's snaps. We don't know who it's going to be, but Dobbs consistently was that, 80% kind of guy. His snaps really didn't change regardless of who was healthy and who wasn't. So I would hold him at least through this week. And Philly, it's not the worst team if you need a starter in a pinch in a deeper league, just because it's a higher scoring game. The total's around 49, and Philly's had trouble at corner last year, and they're working in some new pieces and some younger guys. So like Dobbs, and then for guys who just aren't rostered at all, so you're guaranteed to get them. A speculative ad I think is Andre Yosevach, the new slot receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He could be a guy that's going to be on the field 75-80% plus of snaps because the Bengals play a ton of 1-1 personnel with 3 wide receivers on the field. You're going to have Chase, you're going to have Higgins, and Yosevach has been practicing as that first team slot receiver all camp. And I even checked, he didn't play any special team snaps in preseason, and that's usually a really good sign because He played special team snaps last preseason and last regular season. So the fact that he didn't play any means they've already kind of got their mind made up that Yosavash is going to be their guy. And we know Jermaine Burton's like falling asleep in meetings and in danger of being a healthy scratch. And he might not even challenge for slot snaps anyway. He would probably be more of the number 4 wide receiver with Yosavash's role remaining as is. So anytime you're looking at potentially a top 3 target for Joe Burrow, I think you have to take advantage. So like Yosavash as well.
Yeah, and with Jamar Chase potentially not even suiting up this week, his stock's going way up for week 1 even.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if Jamar Chase doesn't suit up, then Yosavash probably second in line for targets, just because you don't know how much Gesicki is more in doubt in terms of his playing time, just because they have 5 tight ends on the roster. So,
yeah. Although I've been kind of debating with myself if that would actually help Yosavash, because I think Jermaine Burton's insanely talented. He was a borderline first-round talent. He only fell to round 3 because of off-field concerns. Like you said, he's fallen asleep in practice. If they're forced to play
meetings, not practice.
Same thing.
If you fall asleep in practice, you deserve to never, ever play the game again.
They didn't like his work ethic approach at practice either, preparing for games and things like that. So, but if he's forced on the field, he's going to be hard to take off, because I think he is extremely talented, probably more talented than Yosavash. So I've been kind of debating if Jamar Chase missing time would actually help or hurt Yosavash. But either way, if Chase ends up being ruled out this week, Yosavash should be potentially my top 36.
Yeah, Yosavash is also very talented, and he's got that year of chemistry, and he's been having the great camp. So, and obviously Burton stands out when he runs the right route. But yeah, I think it helps both of them. It's tough to kind of choose, because Yosavash, he just gets a bump in target share from the number 3 to 2, but then Burton actually has a pass to playing time. Although the way it sounds now, they probably would just start Trenton Irwin if Jamar Chase were to miss. So that's that. Yeah, so I'm gonna say Yosavash at least now, but if it drags on, then eventually that clears the path for Burton to just descend sooner. All right, tight end. Who do you like on waivers ahead of week 1?
It's a pretty rough week for tight end streamers. The highest rank I have for a guy that's available is Cade Otton at tight end 17, available in 80% of leagues. And he's a guy that I kind of pointed out as a potential breakout candidate this year. Could become an every week tight end 1 league winner type. I mean, for Otton, the one thing going for Otton is his underlying usage when it comes to routes run. Consistently 90% or above, which is one of the best at the position. Unfortunately, he just doesn't see enough targets to put up tight end 1 production, but he's entering year 3. Sometimes it takes tight ends a few years to break out. So we could see that happen this year. Plus, ever since he took over as starter almost 2 full seasons ago, neither Mike Evans or Chris Godwin have ever missed time. Other tight ends have banked on, other targets in their offense missing time. Not Otton, so we haven't really seen his built-in upside if either one of those guys missed time, because then he'd be potentially a top 2 target that week. So he's a guy that, he's probably where he should be right now, kind of a mid-range tight end too. But if you're desperate for somebody week 1, he makes sense, and he could offer some long-term tight end 1 value if he does break out this year.
Yeah, the only thing I'm a little, I wonder how if they're gonna change the rotation up at all, because they did keep 4 this time, right? With I think they kept a rookie Culp, so I wonder if they're gonna what's his name, Payne Durham.
Well,
is still
Payne
there,
Durham,
so, yeah. I wonder if they're gonna if it's gonna be straight 90% Otton, and then the other guys are just behind him again, or it's gonna be a little different because they have the new OC, but. Yeah, if he's getting that 90% routes run, I mean that's all you can really do at tight end is kind of look for those snaps and hope it pays off. For me, I got a couple guys. Taysom Hill is available in over half of ESPN leagues. He's a fringe guy. He's always got super high upside, but he's got a very low floor. But if you want an upside shot, I don't mind Taysom really any week. But I also like Zach Ertz. Ertz is a guy who I've been kind of saying he's going to start the year in this Cliff Kingsbury offense. It's probably the number 2 target, especially now that the Jahan Dotson got traded. Eckler can only be on the field so much, splitting work with Brian Robinson Jr. So Zach Ertz is the favorite to be number 2 on the Commanders in targets, on a weekly basis until he gets hurt in like week 8. So until then, I think he is right there on that, fringe of tight end 1 discussion. And another guy, kind of a sleeper, is Colby Parkinson. Parkinson's a guy who he has a very good chance to be in on 80-85% of the snaps, kind of like Cade Otton, but in a much better offense against a Lion defense that gave up the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends last season. And I think the Lions, they're getting better at corner. They're getting better with the pass rush. So tight end might still be the spot where you have to target them. So like Parkinson is kind of a dart throw there, but I think that the highest floor guy is probably Ertz, just based on where he could fall in the target pecking order in Washington against a vulnerable Buck defense that gave up the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends. So the defense should be the same because Todd Bowles is still there. So it's the offense that may change. All right, let's close it out with defense and kicker streamers. Who you like for defense?
Well, it's got to be the Bengals this week because they face the Patriots. They're available in 45% of leagues. They open the week as my top-ranked defense, and I always emphasize being the top-ranked defense does not mean they're going to be the actual high-scoring defense of the week. It doesn't even guarantee that they're going to be top 5. It just means that based on the more stable stats that we project for defense, like points allowed, sacks, they're probably going to finish above average this week, and that's all I'm willing to say. But this matchup is always going to be perfect for streaming defense against the Pats. Their offensive line is a disaster. This Bengals defense is at full health now. Sam Hubbard had a knee scare in early August, but he looks good to go. So this defense is at full strength. I think Trey Hendrickson should dominate the Pats offensive line this week, so we should see a few sacks from them. Should be able to, keep them under 20 points or so, could force some turnovers. So they check every box when it comes to what you'd like in a streaming defense. And we'll probably see that for most teams facing the Patriots if they're available in over half the leagues. But as of now, the Bengals are my top ranked defense and they are available in nearly half leagues. So they're my top streaming option as of now.
Yeah, I was actually drafting a team for a friend, and I was saying like, all right, when it comes to defense, first of all, there's people taking defenses and kickers before the last 2 rounds, which is
unbelievable.
But I'm like, what we're gonna do is we're not even gonna take one unless they leave the Bengals there, because we want the Bengals. We want, and sure enough, like after the whole entire league has already taken all their defenses and all their kickers, look who's sitting there. The Bengals and my top-ranked kicker, Jake Bates, nice. Which I'll get to in a minute. But there's a good chance you can get the top-ranked, or at least my top-ranked defense and kicker on waivers this week. Because like you said, it's all about matchup. For me, I'll go with the Minnesota Vikings. They're available in about 80% of leagues, going up against the New York Giants. And I like this for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Vikings have been getting better on defense personnel wise. A couple of years ago it was really rough, but now they've kind of rebuilt that defense. Even though they lost Danielle Hunter, they still made some adds and kind of have pretty solid players all up on every level of the defense. And you have Brian Flores, who can do more with less, and he can be super multiple. He can blitz, he can drop 8 in the coverage, just a lot of confusing looks. And the thing I like about facing the Giants this time, because remember, they used to torch the Vikings when it was Donatel and that just easy zone defense. But now Flores, they spent all offseason kind of adding guys that could play more man coverage. You got Stephon Gilmore and Griffin at the corners. And so you're going to be able to play man, blitz a ton, and the Giants are going to pass. This is not hide Daniel Jones and hand it to Barkley. Barkley's gone. So you're going to get a lot of opportunities against what should be a pass-happy Giants offense. And Daniel Jones struggles when he holds the ball and throws it downfield. So I expect this to be nothing like, Daniel Jones essentially made a career out of playing the Vikings with their old coordinator. I expect this to be completely different. So I have the Vikings as my number 7 defense.
Nice.
Number 6. Sorry, number 6 defense this week. All right, kicker. Who do you like?
I'm going with Chase McLaughlin here for the Bucks. They're at home against the Commanders. He's available in 98% of leagues, so he's probably available wherever you have kickers in your format. But the top 6 kickers in my weekly projections are all owned in most leagues. However, Matt Gay looks like he's legit questionable, so if you own him, watch out. Like, he might sit this week, so be careful with him. But McLaughlin is my number 8 kicker to open the week. And he's coming off his best season last year with the 94% field goal rate. And he has a big leg. He has at least 7 made 50-plus yarders in each of the last 2 seasons, which is a nice bonus for most leagues because you get, extra couple points for 50 yarders. So, this should be a fairly low-scoring game. The Bucks team total is only 22.5. But they could stall in the red zone. They could be playing with a lead. So I like his field goal upside here. And again, like I said, if they get inside, a 60-yard attempt from him, they're going to let him kick it, which, is a huge bonus when it comes to kickers. So Chase McLaughlin, as of now, is my top streaming kicker.
I think you just spent more time talking about. You had so many notes on McLaughlin. I expected you to just be like, "Yeah, he's my top kicker." Like, that's it. Like, You didn't usually don't even want to talk about kickers at all.
Okay,
ready.
All right.
One. I
do not give a shit about kickers before the season starts. Do not draft them whatsoever. I don't care who they are. However, right now, week 1 started. You have to pick up a kicker. This is when I shift to actually giving a shit. So you better believe I'm all kickers now. And my kicker streaming articles, usually I have, 7 or 8 bullet points. So be ready for this as a weekly tradition for me to talk about my kicker way too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love it. I always kind of like kickers because I think it benefits people like us who are, so meticulous with our projections because I think there really is an edge if you just got to know. Again, it comes down to stable stats and points scored is, just kind of predicting a team's points. That's all that's like your baseline. And then it's just a matter of, okay, which kickers have bigger legs and, we'll get more attempts from deeper. But speaking of which, my number 1 kicker this week is Jake Bates. I know he's never kicked in the NFL in a regular season game yet, but he's on the Detroit Lions and he won the job. And the Lions are indoors and they are my projected highest scoring team of the week. And so Bates, one of the reasons they kept him is because he has a big leg. So the Lions, they are they go for it on 4th down a ton, but going for it on 4th down doesn't always hurt the kicker because you could go for it on 4th down, like in midfield, extend the drive so you can kick a longer field goal the next time. And I think that's what the Lions are trying to do now and why they ended up choosing like a more unproven guy with leg. But kickers like this, it really just comes down to team points. And when you have a team like the Lions who are, projected to score about 28 according to the Vegas line or something like that, the total is 51. They're home, they're favorites. Close game too. So I think it's 3.5 is the projected spread. So everything you want in a kicker. So Bates never kicked in the NFL, already my kicker 1. So if you could, and Bengals are my defense 1. So this is why you don't draft kickers and defenses before the last 2 rounds, if at all, because you're going to be able to find really, really good options week in, week out on the waiver wire.
Yeah, that'll be Bates every week, assuming he's an accurate kicker.
He's not terrible. Right.
A lot of points with the Lions and a lot of indoor games. I don't think they play outdoors until week 9. And then after that, they don't play outdoors again until week 16. And that, I know you have an indoor model as well. But
Yeah.
it significantly increases their field goal make percentage. So that's huge. Just, one game outdoors until week 16. I'm looking at right now. One game outdoors till week 16. Every week they're going to have a team total of 25 plus. So yeah, Bates could be a long-term play at kicker as well.
Yeah, and he should have a high floor, because even if the Lions are, going for going for it on fourth a lot, which I feel like part of the reason they did that was they just didn't trust the legs of the kickers they had.
Yeah.
Patterson and Badgley. But if the Lions, like each week, if the Lions are playing indoors every week, they're going to score a lot of points. So at least you should be getting extra points, So like, you shouldn't have any weeks where you're getting goose egg or like one or
right.
two. Like the Lions should be scoring 3-4 touchdowns if, at minimum, most weeks if they're playing indoors, if they're not hitting any field goals. So it should be a pretty solid situation. And I think the fact that he's like a long distance specialist, they probably will go for it on fourth a little less in those situations now. So I'm optimistic, but you never know with kickers. But that's why it's just a 1 week ad for now, and if it works out, stay with it.
Now, since I'm all excited. We're talking about streaming kickers for the first time ever on this pod. I'm going to ask you more of a game theory question, but sometimes I like to add it. It's got to be close. It's got to be a kicker I actually like. But if I have a kicker that is playing for my opponent's quarterback's team. So let's say I'm playing against somebody that has Jared Goff. I would take Jake Bates and play him. And the reason I actually tell my guy I'm playing there, woman I'm playing that week, I'm essentially changing the league setting on passing touchdowns, and I'm lowering it at 1 point. Because every time their quarterback throws a touchdown, it's one less point because I'm getting an extra point. Is that a high floor play or is that a strategy you should employ when you're the underdog, the favorite, or just not at all?
I think the favorite, because if you're an underdog, you want a kicker that can kick like 550 yarders without being attacked. Like, you don't want the correlation there.
Well, that would be at the expense of the
you want the other team's quarterback to suck.
Yeah.
And because what could happen is the other team's quarterback could suck and the whole offense could suck. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so you want.
Well, you'd benefit from that.
Yes, it could be correlated, but it might. It also could not. So you want you want to get maximum upside. You want to be able to have your kicker, kind of like best ball. You want to have your kicker go off, and your opponent's quarterback not only like struggle and stall in the red zone, but not even reach the red zone or field goal range at all.
Right.
So I would say but it is a high floor play. Yeah, if you're a favorite, why not?
Because the quarterback position should be scoring way more points than the kicker. So I think if the offense gets shut out, that's a good sign for you. And if you took a 0 from your kicker, at least their quarterback sucked. I just love when their quarterback throws a touchdown and like, crap, that was only worth 3 points. But again, I only use that strategy. I only use that strategy when the kicker's like in the mix and I'm having to decide between like 3 or 4 different kickers. But I like to get in my opponent's head, and I tell them that.
I mean, so you raise a good point, but now that I think about it, you definitely would. I think you definitely have to be like a favorite and trying to protect, because the other thing is, the quarterback is throwing 3-point touchdowns, but number one, you add in yardage, but number two, a lot of leagues now are giving kickers 4 points for a 40-yard field goal, so you don't want to be losing out on field goals because your kicker's team is scoring touchdowns either. You know what I mean? So it's definitely kind of a floor play when I think, number one, it's ideal in leagues where it's just 3 points for field goals unless it's a 50-yarder, not 3.5 for 35 or 4 for anything for 40 to 50. Then I think you're sacrificing too much. It also has to be a situation where likely maybe you're protecting a league and you just waited to decide on kicker. Maybe you let the Thursday game and even the 1 o'clock window go, and then you decided on your kicker.
Oh, right. That would make more sense.
Yeah, and it would have to be so, because essentially you don't want, if there's just a better option, let's say there's a top 8 to 10 kicker, I wouldn't take the kicker 20 just because that's the opposing quarterback. But if it's kind of close, then I think it makes sense because it's definitely a way
That's-
to kind of to protect your weed. But yeah,
Yep.
that's an interesting thought. But like in general, I always tell people, like a lot of people always ask me, oh, should I start like two guys on the same team or somebody against my opponent? It's like, really start your best players. Like
Yeah.
this is just a specific game theory ad that we're discussing, but like in general, start your best players or the best players available to you, regardless of how the teams break down between you and your opponent, because they're that's the whole point of projecting and ranking them. Like if you have two players projected to score the most points, whether they're on their same team or your opponent has the quarterback, whatever, they're still projected to score the most points. So that's how you want to approach that. That's going to do it for our week 1 NFL fantasy football waivers episode here on the Fantasy Flex. Make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you don't miss our 3 episodes per week all season long. And don't forget fantasylabs.com for all of our fantasy football content. You can use promo code FLEX20 at fantasylabs.com/flex for $20 off right now. Sean's on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.